Hi everyone, Nat Richards from Totem Migration here, and the purpose of this video is to add a little bit more detail to the 408 COVID-19 stream visa. We've talked about this a little bit before. The Australian government has already made some waves about this visa in the last couple of weeks as the COVID-19 or coronavirus situation has evolved. But yesterday, which was the 22nd of April 2020, they've put a little bit more detail behind this, so we now understand a little bit better where we stand. So today, 23rd of April, as I'm making this video, the information that I'm putting across here in the next couple of minutes is totally relevant, and if it needs to be updated in the future, we absolutely will. Now, the 408 COVID-19 stream visa does at first glance appear as though it's a bit of a catch-all for anybody who is stuck in Australia on a visa currently who cannot return to their home country, specifically because of the knock-on effects of COVID-19. And unfortunately, there's a little bit more to it than that I'll need to unpack here as quickly and easily as I can. Because the Australian government are looking to use this visa, I think, to be fair, more than anything else, as a visa to help people remain in Australia lawfully and to help the Australian community through this really trying time if they have an occupation or a role within particular jobs or particular industries, critical sectors as the government are calling them, that relate specifically to the fight against coronavirus. So they've singled out a few potential industries or critical sectors that they want to focus on with this visa. And you can still apply for one of these visas if you do not work within one of those critical sectors, but there's some different things that you need to consider. So first and foremost, this visa will apply only to someone who is in Australia right now. So if you're not in Australia, this is absolutely not on the cards and there's not a way to come into this country. You need to be on Australian soil right now. You also need to be on a visa that will expire in the next 28 days or has expired within the last 28 days. And you can also be on a bridging visa as well. So it can't be the sort of visa that you're applying for a long way ahead of time before your current visa is set to expire. So you will need to be a little bit more patient than that if the 408 is looking for you. This critical sector thing is a really important point to make. So what does the government consider a critical sector to be right now on the 23rd of April? And I'll read from a list here. So these are people who work within agriculture, food processing, healthcare, aged care, disability care, or childcare. So if you have a role already in Australia, or you have secured a role in Australia in one of those sectors, then you're in with a very good shout of getting a 408 visa if necessary. And unfortunately, it's not as easy as saying, well, I have experience in one of these roles overseas, and I believe now I could be useful in helping Australia through the coronavirus. You do actually need to have a lot more weight behind that claim. So you need to actually be engaged in one of these critical sectors, working in the Australian economy right now and be able to substantiate that. Or you need to be able to prove that you've gained a position recently and can continue to work in that occupation if granted a 408 visa. And there needs to be hard, ironclad documentary evidence behind that. So this evidence also needs to highlight how it is not possible for an Australian employer of some sort to fill the role that you might fill with an Australian who could do the same work. So there's quite a bit that will go into this in proving to the Australian government that you're the right person for the job. An Australian is not on hand to do that work, and that you've actually got a valid opportunity rather than simply a skill set that could be used for those purposes. And those who are successful in applying for one of these visas can expect to get up to 12 months of time in Australia to apply their trade. And of course, thankfully, there is no visa application fee either. So it's a cheap visa to apply for in that sense. There's still a lot of work that goes into it though. So if you're going to hire the services of a migration agent like Totem Migration or anyone else out there that can do this on your behalf, there is still going to be an expense involved because there's actually quite a bit of work that goes into it. Now, the government have also made it possible for people who are here on a temporary visa that will expire soon or has expired recently, who do not have roles or occupations within those critical sectors, to apply for this visa. Though importantly, they will only do that if you can demonstrate that there is no other valid alternative available to you from all of the different visas that the Australian government still has available. So I think it's fair to say that the government are not using the 408 COVID-19 stream visa as a catch-all to help bail people out of being stuck in Australia simply because coronavirus or COVID-19 has delayed flights or made travel unsafe or whatever other reason, of course, is relevant to your situation. If you can make an application for another valid visa, like the 600 visitor visa, which has thus far been the visa of choice for the overwhelming majority of people to stay lawfully in Australia, it's still very likely that you may need to consider going ahead with a 600 visa rather than a 408. But it's very difficult for me to sit here and make this video and say that that's a blanket rule for everybody because, of course, everyone's situation is a little bit different. So if you're interested in staying in Australia lawfully with a visa expiry coming up and you're wondering whether or not the 408 visa might be the way for you to do that, all I can really do is encourage you to reach out to us at Totem Migration to get some answers and talk about your situation a little bit more, and we can take it from there. There is no one-size-fits-all answer to that question. So hopefully that helps you out. If you'd like to touch base with us, you can get us by email at info@totemmigration.com.au. That's TOTM migration.com.au. Hope to hear from you soon. Thanks. Bye.